Gordon.
Go ahead.
So about Nick. Off you go, Nick.
Yeah, we're just talking about that Tychos Bray system.
Uh-huh.
I
Yeah,
don't
I
know if you had a
still
look
don't
at it.
understand that. What is the basic premise of it, Nick?
Right. Well, basically, since up to Copernicus, people thought that the planets and the stars revolved around the Earth, and then Copernicus. That was obviously purely from the astronomical observations. But then Copernicus got this model, which was adopted for many reasons, but primarily the primary thing was it fitted in with a Newtonian perspective, or Keplerian perspective. It meant that if you observed the planets using you could have a solar-centric solar system if you used Kepler's equations to stretch and elongate the orbits into these quite kind of really stretched oblong, I don't know what, egg-shaped orbits. So the old system was gradually over 50 years sort of changed and accepted by the church and all the rest of it, the Catholic Church, blah 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 blah, who were burning everyone who believed in the Copernican system. But anyway, that's by to the by. Tycho Brahe was he was a Danish gentleman, I suppose, but he was a very meticulous astronomer, and he measured Mars quite a lot. For some reason, he loved Mars, but he developed a cosmology, which was like these guys Simon Shack was talking about on the Demystify project. He developed this this system of rotation, whereby the sun and is right. Mercury and Venus are moons of the sun, and rotate in almost circular orbits around the sun. But at the same time, the sun and the Earth. Oh, that's it. And the Earth and rotates around. Shares a point of rotation with Mars, so that every 26,000 years, the time of the grand precessional time, 25,500 years, whatever it is, Mars changes its position relative to us and the sun, and at present, the great year is described by this wobble, which it's meant to be a wobble, a reverse wobble that takes 25,000 years to so that you're always, so that the sun is always a degree anti-clockwise every Christ knows how many years. But anyway, so if you adopt this Tychos system, all the planets go back to their circular orbits, and you don't need any of the Kepler elongation, speeding up and slowing down of all the planetary bodies. And there's a number of other quite big reasons why this system is preferable to the one that NASA and the scientists are purporting at the moment. Now the thing with the NASA system is that in order to explain these you get these loops. You see you see, if these orbits, when you get retrograde motions, when you can see retrograde motions in the planets, you get these loops. Now, if you can, the more loops that you have in your observations, depending which planet you observe from, I would think that the more unlikely that makes the center of the solar system. But then, if you look at the solar system from this barycenter between the Earth and Mars that is caused, and if you were to look at the planets from there, the loops almost totally disappear, and so you have these smooth rotations. And it was what I was talking about a few years ago with these, when you get the astronomical ephemeres, all these loops are straightened out because they're added, these kind of curves, and they're added like rotations on like a loop within a loop, or a loop on top of a loop, a circle described on top of a circle. As you're making one circle, can you imagine if you're making a smaller circle while the compass is on the perimeter of the old circle? It's like doing it in real time, so it's hard to describe it. But you end up getting these variations in the circular orbit. So you'll end up with more orbit, egg-shaped orbits. And then, for example, two scientists.
Hold on 1 second. A sphere within a sphere is kind of like a colloid. Is that what you mean?
Well,
a circle within a circle.
When you're doing a Fourier transform on something, you can express a lot of shapes in Fourier transforms, which are a series of curves made at different curves starting at different
okay, what's making the curves? Maybe if I understood that, I'd understand this better, because I watched some of it with Andy. I still don't get it.
Right. Well, the orbits make the curves.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But if we're moving along and a planet, so a planet might come rushing past us and then appear to start moving backwards from our viewpoint, and then start going forwards again, and it's these loops, right? They do exist. But the observation.
Nick, an easy way would be.
I wish you'd have just looked at the rotten program, because it's very hard to explain like this.
Is it the one?
Yeah.
Is it the one Andy shared with me? Because I watched about 45 minutes to an hour of it, and I'm still lost.
Right.
Yeah, but you've got to go the whole program.
Okay.
And you've probably got to watch it twice to really get the idea that it's the geometry or geometrics of it. So as I looked at it and listened to it, I seen some of what Ted's theory is, whereby you had the Saturnian system merge with the sun system, right?
Yeah.
But that's where this is broken down further. So there's even the theory in this that Mars could have once been a brown dwarf.
Mars.
Yeah. And
what about Saturn and Jupiter? Yes. Mars is a rocky planet.
Yeah, but that's now, right? And that we actually that this precession is us orbiting Mars, right? So we're orbiting Mars, it's orbiting the sun, and then you've got your two, Neptune, and what was the other one, Nick, that are just orbiting the sun.
Okay.
And of course, you've got Saturn, and you've got you've got the moons, right? What we call the moons of Saturn, which you could interpret would be, if you had a Saturnian system, that would have been Saturn's.
What's it called?
It's the Tycho. Yeah, I've got it on my computer. It's called the Tycho. Hang on. The YouTube thing, or because you can even the actual software. They've done a Stellarium, Greg, and I've got that up and running on my computer here. But this is called.
Can you share your screen?
Yeah, I think so. If I can learn how to do it, I will do.
I'm gonna stop sharing mine. Go ahead, because I'd like some visual aids.
I'll see if I can get this up, Greg.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So basically, what you're saying is that all the planets don't orbit the sun. Some orbit each other.
Well, look, we do. We orbit the sun, but on our way of orbiting the sun, there's also this slow orbit of, you know, for instance, the theory is there's this slow orbit of us orbiting Mars as that occurs. And so as we're orbiting the sun, we're also slowly orbiting Mars.
So
right, and then you've got the same with others.
Is Mars orbiting?
Mars is orbiting the sun.
Okay. How can the Earth orbit Mars and the sun at the same time?
All right, I hope to show you in a sec if I can get this going in a sec. Share screen.
Yeah, share screen. I'd like to see that. That's interesting, but I'm just like, I want to understand it better.
Can you see this?
No.
Not yet.
Not yet.
So you get a box come up and you got to go.
I'll start sharing, yeah. Right, I've got this running now. 1 second equals a day. Right now. 1 week equals a day. I'll put a trace on.
Can you see that, Greg? I don't know. Greg's not talking.
I think he's gone. Put a trace on him. Lines.
So that's off his website, isn't it, Nick?
Yeah, this is off that Tychos
website.
Tychosium, yeah. Right, hang on. So you got all this data on all this lot. Let me have a look. Right, run trace. All right. So I'm tracing all these now. I'm not tracing them all.
No, you've only got some planets in there.
That's the sun.
There are, look, see, you see one of the loops there. Which planet's that just looped?
I'm not sure at the moment. Let's have a look.
So it's a big white one out the side. Is that the sun or is the sun in the middle?
I think that's Jupiter. So
right.
Right, let's turn some of these off. Turn out all these big ones off. Jupiter's going off. Saturn's going off. Uranus, Neptune, Halley's Comet. So, for now, let's stick Mercury and Venus off.
So that now is the Earth.
Interesting. I see the Earth and the Moon in the middle.
Right,
so is
that's
it saying the Earth and Moon don't move?
Well, yeah, but right now, check this out. Now, I will move it to node, Greg, to being, I'll change the center, like I was talking about, if I can. Can do it. I did it earlier. Trace, positions, stars and helper objects. Let's have a look, see what that is. Earth cam. That's AU distance longest. Zodiac. Polar line. There's a way of changing the barycenter. But I'll back to the barycenter. If there's a way of doing that in here. Orbits. Orbits. No, so it's not that. So let me just come back up here.
Wonder how he got all of this.
Well, it's all data that's published from all the old astronomers, and it's the only thing he hasn't used is the new Hubble data. Well, I think he's used some of that, but not the Gaia data, because it's like I say, it's look, they're just bullshitting us. It doesn't add up. Right, so this is, I've got it at Earth center. Oh, look at Earth. Right, now, if I turn it on to the barycenter, right, I'll turn it on to the sun. This is how it's meant to be, right? Just turn them traces off. Turn them back on.
Interesting. Now, what are these? I need to know what bodies these are.
Right, well, all we've got here now is the sun, Mars,
okay,
the Earth and Moon.
Earth. Okay.
The Earth and the Moon going around it. So now I'm going to
add. That's crazy.
Yeah. So now this is according to our model that we've got now with the solar center, and you can see how this doesn't make any sense under gravitic law anyway.
Right. Yeah. But we know gravity is an electric dipole.
Right. Yeah. Right. So I'm going to add some more planets.
What's the pattern that it creates, Nick? When you got the trace on the
looks like the flower of life.
There's a name for it, Stopia or something. I can't remember. Yeah, but it does create all these different things. Yeah. Right. Let me have a look.
So these planets are doing this. That's what he's claiming.
Right. This is what they claim. This is the shapes that claim the planets are making. So we've got the Sun and Venus now.
Yeah.
Now sorry, Venus and Mercury. So that's Venus and Mercury. That's and so look how close Mars is coming here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So Mars is going to get closer to the Earth.
Well, no, I'll put on the orbits. I'll put on the something of the sun to show you what it's what it's following. I can
keep going. I have to.
Yeah. Well, while you do that, Greg. Greg, it will just keep building patterns.
Yeah. Okay. I'll be right back.
And that's the geometry of it, isn't it, Nick?
Well, this is what they're telling us it is at the moment. Now, I'm going to turn all these orbits off, apart from the sun. That's what I wanted.
And that was one of the things he said in his presentation about how Venus and Mars occasionally get very close, which is again in Velikovsky's work.
Well, it shows it on here, Venus.
It's got very close. That's one of the things Velikovsky talked about, and you seem to get that. What do they call it? The Battle of the Gods or the War of the Gods, where and Venus was involved, and actually we're watching it all here.
Right, so that's the shape they say the inner planets are doing. That's the dance they say is happening.
Yep.
That's under that system.
Yep.
And look how complicated. Right. Look how.
And you haven't got Halley's Comet in that, have you, Nick?
Sorry.
You haven't got Halley's Comet in that dance, have you?
Well, no, I haven't put the outer planets or anything on yet. So I'll put Jupiter on. There's Jupiter.
Yeah, and you'll have to show Saturn for Greg.
So that's going in quite a good circle around the sun. Not too elongated. Let's have a look where Saturn is. That's quite a way away, I bet. Go out a bit further. There it is. So it's all revolving around the sun in the middle, and all these complicated little patterns. Then, as we get out, Uranus, it's too far out to see. Go further out. You know, there's Uranus.
Yeah. What's that? The one that the green one we've got now, Uranus, is it? Where it's doing the dance around itself.
I'm not sure what that is yet. Neptune. Halley's.
There's Halley's Comet. That's Halley's Comet.
Yeah, so that's Halley's Comet spinning around like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So now I'll turn this. I'll zoom back in.
I'm back.
And turn it to. See, that's what they're saying.
There's your inner planets. Patterns in your inner planets.
That's how the planets move according to this the current model.
And that's that. Now, remember, Vogt had that dipole thing he used to talk about before he went off track. He's not with us anymore. So, but I've seen so many. I'll tell you who else has a similar diagram is what's his name? Buddy talks to him occasionally. The physicist spoke. I'll think of it in a minute. Anyway, he has like something like that.
Looks like the flower of life.
Yep.
Yeah, right. Well, right. I'll start again in a minute and put the
Halley's Comet, Greg. That's grouse to watch Halley's Comet, how it does its loops. Right. And
yeah. How far? How far?
76-year loop from memory. It's a 76-year loop from memory. But we see it more than once and we think it's a different one because of us doing our little loop.
Yeah. What's the green circle? What's the big?
That's Halley's
Comet. Okay. I get it. Wow. That's interesting. And how did this guy find this out? By watching other star systems?
It's just a different interpretation of astronomical readings. And without looking at it from a gravity standpoint, and when you do that, when you look at it purely from a trigonometric, a geometrical standpoint, this simpler form comes out. Now let me just set it back to the barycenter, which is the barycenter of Earth and Mars.
Mm-hmm.
But you also see, Greg, when you look there, you can see how even the outer planets, aren't just going around in a circle because you start to see how the lines create.
And they can't explain those.
They know for a fact that it's doing this.
Well,
no, it's a theory. That's what they tell us.
Okay.
Yeah,
this is barycenter. So if we look at the center now, we're back at the barycenter of
interesting.
Right, now I'll just change this day again. I'll start back in 20. I'll start back this year again.
Dan Winder, that's all.
Is there a name for this? Do they have a term for it? The Tycho.
Yeah, that's what they call it.
Tychosium?
The Tychos Brahe system. This is called the Tychosium, this piece of software.
Tychosium, okay.
Now,
this is the Tychos Brahe system. He's written a book, Greg.
He's written a book, but you must remember, Greg, it's not just him. Because during it, he talks about other people that are also doing research, and it's a combination of all these different people, and they're putting it together. So it's not just one person, right? And then, of course, now Nick's gone to your star alignments as well. And that's the next big part of it. of why they believe what they're saying is because of how you get your alignments and your shifts with your stars. And the other thing was how they also say that the stars are closer than we're told. That was one of their big things, wasn't it, Nick?
Yeah, because we're not getting these massive big swings. We measure in our orbit, but more sensible. Well, we're hardly moving basically under this system, as you can see, so we can get very accurate star readings from the Earth. Not the satellites that NASA says they've got this doing that and giving us information from these satellites they've got everywhere. Dubious, most of it is.
It's just it seems a lot more chaotic. I mean, if every planetary system is doing this, there doesn't seem to be a method to the madness. I mean, what is?
Well, there is. If you look at the diagram,
yeah,
there is.
Can they ever can they ever just break away, or do they stay in lock with each other? They have to, right?
Yeah.
Well, they're in an electrical conduit, aren't they? They're locked into an energetic system.
So like a colloid, yeah.
No, the big argument is that the sun's the biggest thing since sliced bread. Therefore, it's got the most mass and therefore the most influence on the rest of the planets. But maybe it's just an incandescent ball of gas, most of it, which would mean it hasn't got a massive gravity. Maybe there's one of these solitons sat inside Mars, which has got an enormous energy, but it's all stored up and rotating in a single phase, which means it doesn't set off a magnetic field. You can't read the magnetic field around it because it's all cancelled out. But it might have a massive charge for all we know.
And then of course you've got Saturn and Jupiter and that, which would also keep everything in line because of where they're positioned. But you overlook, you've even got your outer planets do loops.
Right now, if I put on right now, I'll just turn on the outer planets. And you'll see what spherical orbit they've got under this system with no loops. We'll just turn off Airless for a moment. And so I've just turned on Neptune, Uranus, Saturn.
I think
Jupiter. That's Jupiter. So I'll just zoom out. So that's circular. That's got a circular orbit around the Earth and Moon.
Okay. Hold on, I'm getting Neil in here. I'm sure he's going to want to take a look at this. Okay, he's going to join. Okay, I gave him the link.
Okay, go ahead.
Go ahead, keep going. Now that's pretty wild.
There's your star systems. And there's your star systems, Greg.
Yeah, I see that.
All right, it is fascinating what it's basically a lot of old, again, like Velikovsky, gone back through a lot of the old, what was previously, and with the modern technologies, being able to sort of work on it and put it together.
He's put all these ephemera into a list. All these different readings of the planets and where they've been observed at what time, and he's been able to stick a formula to them so that then he's got these rotations, and that's basically what we're looking at.
Neil.
And it works like clockwork, obviously.
Yeah, that's what he said. It's like a Swiss watch. It actually never technically wears out.
None of these parts will run into each other under this simulation either.
Nick, bring Neil up to speed with this.
Yes, if you so wish, as if I have anything to say beyond the curtain.
Yeah, it's new. It's brand new to me too. This. Go ahead, Nick. Explain it to him.
Yeah, it's kind of like a stellarium, but these guys who've made it made it to illustrate the Tychos Brahe cosmology, as opposed to the Keplerian one or the
What is the
Newtonian
main
one.
crux of the difference between the two? I mean, obviously the clockwork Keplerian
Excuse me.
idea I'd understand, but the other one.
Sorry, what did you say?
Oh, sorry. I was just, I obviously, or I think I understand the Keplerian model. You mean like the Newtonian clockwork idea of the universe or the solar system versus, I'm not sure, the other one.
Well, basically, what was under dispute before Galileo even was that we had a solar centric system instead of an Earth centric system, and there were quite a lot of proponents for the Earth centric system, with who obviously been observing this and concurring with these observations for hundreds, if not thousands, of years. And it was it was only Copernicus and who decided that we ought to look at a more solar oriented system.
Oh, that's true. Except that the faith that Copernicus had that it would be well accepted, same as Tycho Brahe. They had such faith that they waited until they were dead to publish it.
That's beautiful.
That's a very smart idea, because the church was talking to Galileo before that, and they go, "We know that it's a solar-centric system, but we can't tell anybody, and no one has the math for the other one. So if you don't stop talking, we're going to burn you alive." And he was like, "Okay, I'll stop that then."
Yeah.
Sorry, I mean, you got to inject humor into this, but they did, I think, according to, from what I understand, they did know, or had a lot of suspicions that it was the case. And the recent, I don't know if you heard of, well, actually, no, I can't remember the gentleman's name, but he was talking about things that he found in ancient Egypt. And one of the things he found was the words for year are literally the words Earth, orbit, sun.
Mm-hmm.
Like they knew, like way before, the Ptolemaic system, but probably even born. But I'm assuming that their interest in the sky was, I mean, they considered it holy, so they would probably have ideas about that, which go beyond our points of view of them, where we have sort of brought God into an etherical semi-being that has nothing to do with anything in the sky. Besides,
under this system, the Earth does still orbit the sun, but it's doing a rotation, more importantly, with Mars, and that rotation takes place in precession, and also this particular configuration of the planets.
Are we looking at the first 3 planets here?
I'm trying to figure out what I'm looking at. I'm trying to turn some of it.
It looks like the relationship between Mars and Venus and Earth. Yeah, that's what it looks like.
So I've got Earth and the Moon at the center at the moment.
Oh, I see. Okay, that's why.
This is the Barry. No, this is the Barry center. It's producing the Barry center between us and Mars. I think that's what this is doing.
That's craziest thing I've ever seen.
Well, you can get the same thing from if you watch the sun and you watch the orbits of the planets, the first 3 planets. That's why I thought that's what we were looking at. Now that I see the moon going around there, I understand what I'm looking at. But they did also create these flower-like patterns. And in my opinion, and I think I'm right, but I could be wrong. I believe that the people who were, like the Mayans, for example, were extremely interested in close encounters with Mars, or not Mars, Venus. Whenever Venus got to its closest approach to Earth, that was a problem.
And under this system, we do get that.
That's good. Well, I mean,
right?
I mean, it does have to do the same system. We have to see the same thing, so that definitely makes sense, at least.
Yeah, yeah. So So Neil, the thing that on the what Nick and I watched and Greg's watched some of, the people that did this talk with this bloke, right?
Mm-hmm.
The thing that they really struggled with this system is where's the gravity, right? You know,
Obviously,
that was the big thing they couldn't get their head around, wasn't it, Nick?
absolutely.
Now, how
They
old is
said,
this?
yeah,
So
they
the
said
people who
it's
interviewed him and
totally,
discussed it with him were really good, right? But they just couldn't get their head around that. Where's the gravity? You know, and as I said to somebody, well, Thornhill could probably explain that.
Well, no, I don't.
You don't
I
need
think
it.
that this
You
is
don't
not the
need it.
correct theory. I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, I'm not
Yep.
saying that we are, totally right about everything. I included have problems with, for example, the Earth having different points of gravity on its surface, or places where, like, we have to make course corrections on spacecraft. Like, even though we were sure we were right the first time, then why is it different now? Those type of things.
Yeah,
So
you're
yes,
not
I do
right.
have some concerns about these things, because the thing that I look for if I have to change something, for example, is what needs to be changed. What anomalies are there that say there's a problem? And I look for those. I'm not sure if this is a solution to that, but you're right. You would have a definite problem with regards to gravity. I mean, you're talking about a much stronger electric field if it was going to be able to push away Venus like that. Like, it comes
Yes.
in and then suddenly it goes, oh, don't want to get any closer. I'm going to piss off now and travel outwards again. That's not
under this system. I think Nick put it before. It does appear that Mars has a lot of energy. You know, like he even mentioned, it once could have been a brown dwarf. That right, Nick?
Well, that's right. I mean, there's evidence that it's seen an awful lot of action, Mars, and it's probably had whatever gases surrounded it or liquids blasted away.
for sure.
It could have been an absolutely large body at one point. The thing is, if it is one of these solitons, as Earth could be as well, it's generate. Well, Earth does generate a lot of its own
Energy.
electricity.
That is true.
And maybe Mars is all right. It hasn't got this electromagnetic field, but I think this Simon Green who was pointed out, who's looking at these solitons, and they're quite an amazing thing to look at as well in terms of electrical behaviour on a fractal level, microscopic and macroscopic, presumably. And he's showing all sorts of these geometries that pop out on a microscopic basis, and I think these could probably, it's really odd behaviour that some of these things do, and I think this could be applied to the energetics of the planets rather than purely this looking at it from A, gravity, and B, heat and temperature.
Well, clearly you're right. I mean, I've been arguing about that for years. I totally understand. There is nothing in most cells to tell it how to grow unless it has some sort of outside influence to impact it to make it grow a certain way. I mean, as you are probably aware, there's basically no difference between monkey, a cow, and a human at like 3 months. We're just the same little embryos type of thing. And then suddenly because of the DNA, it expresses itself differently inside a field. This is my main concern about going to Mars. You might get to Mars, you might even be able to live there, but what do you grow there what will food look like? Like, this was supposed to be a cabbage. Doesn't look like a cabbage to me. And that doesn't even talk about babies. Not from mutations. I just simply mean that we don't necessarily grow.
What is it, David Llewellyn, or what I think his name is? in the US, well, like they do micro and they change, like get things to grow, arms and stuff
Oh,
like
yes.
that.
So
yeah,
this is
Like
the
we have to
sun's
do it, changing the
sphere of
electrical.
influence, right? This is all in the sun's sphere of influence.
Oh, yes,
Yeah, this
definitely.
this is and this simulation is if you're looking at it from a solar, this being the sun, the part, the center part of the system.
They basically it will all behave the same way. Like basically from the Earth's perspective, it will look the same whether or not it's doing the well, I'll call it the Copernicus way versus this way.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
The same observations
Yeah.
can produce both models exactly.
Well, except that this one has a problem with, as you said, well, there's two problems I see with it. I think this system is looking at these things the way that conventional astronomy looks at these things, or astrophysics, which are separate bodies with a bunch of empty space around them. And then
Yes.
the trouble is that the tail of Earth, if we could see it in this thing, will point directly away from the sun, no matter where. And all of them will point directly away from the sun because we're inside the sun's sphere of influence, and as such, the electric field. So there will be a tail on every planet. Well, even Mars has a tail, but it's really thin because it has no magnetic field. It has an electric field.
I think that's right. But the point is that all the outer planets seem to revolve around this barycenter of Earth and Mars, which revolves around the sun as well.
Well, that probably isn't true, but let's just say it is. That is the way it should be, because all of what basically from our point of view, I think that is why we called it the underworld, where gods go to die. When basically we looked out along the outer planets, like basically outside this, like you just look down south, because obviously if God was the North Pole, then south would be anywhere along the equator. And then there's that, assuming there was rings or no rings, but if there was rings, they cross the 7 rings, and then they go out to die out in the Hades' netherworld there. And they seem to not really do much except for stay in the same spot, because the distance between Earth and the other orbit of Earth is only 1 astronomical unit, so it's 2 in total. And the closest gas giant is 5 astronomical units away. So we could only ever see it by a degree, like 20 degrees off of its face from the sun. We could never really see it as anything but orbiting this group of planets, which are very close in the inner solar system. Which I generally agree with. In principle. So, if you didn't know, you could take the Mars, Earth system and all that, and just say they're just moons of the sun because they're so damn close. If you want to think of it that way. Obviously not, though. But
right, because of the axial tilts.
Well, clearly, yes.
Yeah.
It's much more likely that Mars and Jupiter, Mars and Saturn, it came from their own system with Earth, but it's also looking at just Jupiter and Venus alone. It's clear that they are aligned with the sun. They are almost perfectly up and down with it. So, I think Jupiter's 9 degrees off. That's it.
Yeah, I should be able to find that on here. In fact, hopefully, I can actually.
And according to the mythos, while Cronus was a Titan, Jupiter orbited inside of it, though it was orbiting around the sun. We only saw it in the morning and the evening, like we do with Venus. That's the big hint, by the way, that something's inside of our orbit, is the fact that we can only see it on the morning and evening, because if it's outside of our orbit, we can see it all night long. But if it's inside our orbit, like Venus is, we have to basically, anytime it would be in view would also be when the sun is in view, so the sky is blue. But if, as the morning and evening rolls around, sun goes down, Venus pops up and goes high, and then disappears.
Yeah.
Or shows up in the morning and does the same thing.
No, Thornhill has shown that
I was meaning actual tilt, not degrees tilt off of the center of the ecliptic of the sun.
Right.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
When he was talking, I can't remember what I was going to say. I hate that when that happens. I think I have Alzheimer's, I swear.
It's called
Yeah.
old timers, and it's happening to
I'm
me. It's
getting it as
very
well.
scary.
Is your, yeah,
I
I mean,
I couldn't even remember that guy's name just a moment ago. I'm like, why is this happening to me?
I know. Dementia's got to be the scariest thing ever for someone, when they get older. Like you see
Well,
what
I am
Biden's going
happy.
through.
Well, that's old age. Yeah, my father acts like that. Like that's why
Yeah.
it's like people are going and saying so. Not that I want to be political, but it's like he's acting weird. No, he's acting perfectly normal for someone who's over 80.
Yeah. Well, you see
I mean,
so
not that
many
I'm
guys
securing anything. This is not a promotional deal. I just meant generally speaking, that's how it works. You get
I
old
think
and
so, yeah.
yeah. And now, I mean, even watching if I might take a very small break, even looking at watching Captain Kirk there, William Shatner come online. He wasn't as sharp as he was 10 years ago. He's 93 years old or 94 years old now. So,
Yeah.
and congratulations to him for being the oldest man in space. But I mean, I give him credit for that. I mean, he's in the Guinness Book of World Records.
The
Congratulations.
Shat is crazy.
But
He's
the other
amazing.
gentleman who blew my mind had two strokes. Kirk Douglas, not Kurt, but Kirk.
Yeah, Kirk Douglas. Yeah.
And he was doing an interview with, I think it was the Daily Show about 10 years ago. When he was 101.
Wow.
You know what I mean? And he
Yeah.
had trouble speaking because only half of his face could move.
Yeah.
But he was a whippersnapper. Like, I swear to God, he could tell you stories just boom, 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 boom. Like once I had to break through his, I'll say, language barrier. Once I understood what he was saying, because obviously I've heard him act before, so I'm Spartacus, the whole thing,
Mm-hmm.
But he was very articulate. Obviously, that's the part that does scare me, where your body fails you, either mind or body.
Oh, no doubt.
That's. I mean, I already feel the depression and suffering of just not being able to climb the way I used to, or walk, or.
Yeah, you got to fight through that shit. I know.
Yeah.
See, I got to go to see my doctor today because I got to get back and seeing some kind of a medical doctor because I don't really know. I haven't been to the doctor in 6 months. My doctor turned a cold shoulder on me when I wouldn't go take radiation and chemo. I'm glad that I didn't, but I don't know what's going on inside of
Well,
me.
given your age, there are reasons to want to go a different route because it's much easier to survive weekly poisonings. That's basically what chemo is.
Yeah.
If you're younger, clearly below 50.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just fact. But obviously, if my mother, for example, she was under 50 and she had breast cancer, as many women I found in my community did, not over an abundance amount, obviously, but still. And I was like that's scary stuff.
Oh, it is. Yeah.
And
it is. Yeah.
And
I'm doing the hydrogen peroxide now.
I'm not even sure what that is. Going to make your hair white? Are you trying to become a punk rocker?
No, that's
just wait longer. Your hair will get white.
There's different kinds of hydrogen peroxide. 35% food grade is the only one that can be ingested.
I would assume that low amounts would be because I think it's a poison.
Well, it's oxygen. It's H2O2. And you flood your body with oxygen and it kills free radicals and all that shit.
See, I did not know that.
Yeah.
I probably would have just been I would have just ingested I would be sitting there. What are you doing? Well, this is my cannabinoid intake for today.
Well, I'm
trying to stop cancer,
That's true. But it kills all pathogens that you put in your body. And I've been doing it for about 2 or 3 weeks now, and I feel good. But man, oh man, when I first drink it, man, it's just like there's like this energy exploding inside of me. It's really crazy.
Not that I want you to stop, but I am recalling a story. Okay. And you've probably even seen the picture. There was a drug that was invented in the 1930s that its main ingredient was radon or something like that. It was obviously radioactive. And he felt great energy after he took the pill or took whatever. the problem became, obviously, it was radioactive. And you probably saw the picture. He had great energy until it started wearing down, and he would take more to up the, to want to keep his energy up. But what was happening is he was killing off cells so they weren't needed to be fed anymore. Like the body was just, cells were dying, so he was excreting them. That's why he had the energy, because the cells didn't have to, do that. Eventually, you probably saw the picture of that horrible picture of the guy with only the top of his face and no jaw. That was from that. That's that guy. So I'm not trying to tell you, because I know it's not radiation, but still, that's what he said. He said, I felt a burst of energy. And yeah, well, you see, we had to take his jaw off. Like, that must have sucked. Bad decision. Well, that's the problem. Like, was the reason why we had to invent food, health, and safety, because, I mean, it wasn't so bad when they were making you eat eat this muscat urine or something, and this will cure all, or whatever. That's just snake oil salesmen. But once they started dumping radiation into them, it was like, this is a great idea.
This is from a book called Miracle Cure.
Oh, I'm not doubting that. Don't get me wrong. I don't know anything about to even contest the claims. That being said, I'm always wary of that kind of thing, because you never know. But if you're getting it, I mean, they can't do that anymore, clearly. They won't even let you get near radiation, probably for good reasons. But yeah, I was always, at least you have that. I wouldn't even know what to do. I would be at a loss.
That's why I got to go back today. So I got to get off the phone, guys.
Oh. I'm glad I got here, though.
Yeah.
I'm glad at least I got to see this.
Yeah.
I had no idea that. In a way, it kind of reminds me of flat Earth thinking, but at the same time, it does give you, even just taking something out of what it was normally looked like I mean, all the engines in the world were built that way, just by thinking outside the box and trying to use this strange right-hand rule power to make cool magnetic things turn. Well, this just stepping out and looking at the solar system from just the inner solar system being this little pattern, and then looking out at the other ones, you can see maybe something different, a way that we didn't see before. And I'm always interested in looking for that from that point of view.
Yeah. Well, I hate to run, but I got to go to the doctor. But
I hate to be late, but that's okay.
We can continue this again. I want to do this more often.
I would love to. And I don't know who else is with you, Andrew, but if there is, or if there's someone else, hi, because no? Okay, good. Phew. I was just hearing two voices. I thought I was hearing two people. But
yeah, there's me and Andy as well. There's Greg. That's it.
Yeah,
Greg and Andy.
I'm here too.
Oh, see there.
And Nick.
Perfect. Yeah, that's what I was missing. All right.
Hopefully the recording will take, and we'll have.
Well, I hope, yes.
But
so those patterns, Neil, that were coming up on that what Nick was running, the Tycho thing.
Yes.
I've seen, but some of Buddy's geometry's got similar patterns.
Oh yes.
Some of Dan Winter's work. Some of Dan Winter's work has similar pattern arrangements.
Since we're going,
then you go to some of the earlier stuff that Vogt did before he got off track. He had that toroidal system.
They do that, do they? Like they sort of just works good, and then sort of like Oregon, that stuff that made it rain. Yes, he thought he embedded a new power, but it's
Yeah, so it's something, and like I say, this fella that was doing this talk, he's not claiming anything new. He's just saying we've been doing the research, and this is what we're putting together. As we're doing the research, this is becoming more evident. And
yeah,
well, they're not wrong. That we do have some very beautiful enigmas, especially with even just stars moving in different orders, like Sirius.
It takes a lot of the complications out of the system if you analyze the data this way. And of course, he's got a massive. Sirius is basically a completely binary copy of us as far as he's concerned. With Sirius,
there you go. See. Well, no, it's just interesting, just noting that because of the precession when you mentioned precession, that's immediately popped into my mind.
Yeah, totally,
Yeah.
totally.
Yeah, and
So
the
it's-
idea too, you know, like Nick said, and that you seem to have everything seems to be paired, you know. And when you look at
Everything.
life, and when you look at life, life's
Well, life
paired.
is paired very much right along the collarbone, I think.
And we're only, you know, we're only sort of a small part of the big system, aren't we?
That's true. A lot of us have. Well, you wouldn't know it by seeing some of the drivers on the highways, but but still,
Yeah.
I wanted to point out something very interesting that just in case you haven't seen it, and I'm not going to ruin your time here, so let's be quick. The gentleman, Terrence Howard, was saying some of my stuff to the people at Joe Rogan and stuff, and it was very interesting to hear it come out of his mouth.
That guy watched a bunch of Thunderbolts videos and tries to turn it on as his own.
Yeah, no, I'm not gonna diss the parts that are his, because I don't believe or know them all, and it would be unfair. But to hear, no, there was more energy in the atmosphere during the times of pyramids. I was like, dude, I'm like the only one who've ever said that. Like literally, not even anyone has ever said that before regarding what would happen if during the age of Saturn, if it was electrically impinged by a larger electric field, it would push in like the ionosphere into the atmosphere. It would be closer. And that alone would increase the volts per meter. Now, I said it like that. Of course, he said there was more energy in the past, and they were making electric pyramids with thunders, and I was like, oh, God. But it was nice to at least see the expression. And since I have them all saved on tape, I'm not exactly worried about being able to point out later that I did actually say it first. But still, I'm not looking for any payouts. It was just interesting. Now I want to go say, I'm the one who taught Terrence Howard even know. Put me on Joe Rogan. Anyway, still funny. I just thought you guys would like that, because that's what we're doing. I mean, I'm just doing this for science. I want to know different things so we can see it from different perspectives, understand why is it making these patterns? Why are there relationships? Are there like wave interference that could explain all of the way that satellites are put off track? Or, I mean, even if it's not true, we might find information that could lead us other paths. And I'm all for that, because seeing the same thing over and over, I mean, just imagine like 100 years ago, all we saw was black and white pictures. We couldn't even see color in space. And we based the entire system of stellar birth on a bunch of white dots.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, just think about it. We have no really idea what we're doing. It's very funny. But,
well, but it's still a big industry.
We're getting there. At least we're getting.
Nick, under that Tycho system, we basically got precessions within precessions. So you've got Earth and you've got other bodies within our solar system. So you've got, and like when you're talking about that with the pyramids, that is quite possible that if you followed that over the period of a full precession or two, that you would get to a point where what you were saying, Neil, could be correct.
Well, yes, of course. You can see patterns that you never saw before. Like it might not even be, like I said, it doesn't necessarily have to be 100% perfect to see something new from a different point of view. I mean, we all thought that, I mean, I totally believed in the Clockwork Center universe, but ever since I realized that the tails of planets, of the inner planets anyway, touch each other, well, that's, and they transfer energy, well, then I have to debate this whole idea.
That's what I forgot.
And you can sit there like this, look at this inner solar system. Maybe there's something to that. Now, obviously, I do believe that we like sent the Voyager probes past Jupiter and stuff like that. So that being, I don't think they would have gotten that right had they screwed up the math that bad. So I give credit where credit is due there. There's probably not going to be the truth of this, but seeing something with patterns like this, especially if there was something else going on at the same time, could explain so much. Or the idea that they could somehow be drawing these patterns themselves and understanding them on a level that we don't, or we couldn't think that they could. I mean, just by drawing it this way, let's just say you saw a picture like that drawn just like that somewhere on a wall, you'd be sitting there going, how the Greek could they have done basically the Ptolemaic system this far back? Let's say we found one in, I don't know, Göbekli Tepe or something underneath a rock.
Yep.
We would
Yep.
understand that. I mean, just by looking at it, they say, oh, they drew a flower. I go, no, you didn't draw a flower. They think that they drew the orbits of the first 4 planets from their point of view. Doesn't mean it's right, but that doesn't mean that we cannot find beautiful information from that, because even if it's wrong, they thought it was right and they drew it that way. And it is the way that we would draw it today using that point of view. Like, that tells me that they were definitely looking at the stars and definitely could track them, like more than many other people could. Like, that just would blow you away, right?
Yeah.
And so this is the kind of thing that I think that no matter what, I mean, if just 10 people listen to this and look up Tycho or Tico, I guess. Well, there's a creator
I'm
name
going to
for
have
him.
to look
He's a big
into
guy,
it more.
so.
What I forgot, what I was trying to remember was that Walt Thornhill is the one who brought it to my attention that
This or
concurrent for Venus is touching Earth barely.
yes,
They call it stringy things.
stringy
Yeah.
things. Yes.
So that must
Just a
mean all
plasma
the
tail.
planets are touching each other, right?
I don't know about Mercury and it's how strong its tail is, because I don't know if we've ever sent anything through the tail of Mercury. But for regards to Venus and the Earth, yes. In fact, obviously they were. I mean, look at Greg's picture right there is showing Venus going, "Ha, I'm touching you with my tongue," and everyone's going, "No, no problem. I'll scream and run away."
Yeah.
And then there's and then of course we know our tail touches Mars, because every time we try to take a picture at the apogee of our closest approach, they say, "Oh, there's another storm and we can't see anything."
Mhm.
Really, every time we get close, it's a dust storm on Mars, and you don't see this as a. Okay, I don't know why. I don't know why they have their job anyway.
So the Earth has influence on it then.
Oh yes, and that could influence the orbit. Like, I mean, like why the orbits change slightly to keep them in order. That could be a reason.
Yeah.
I'd actually like to see if there's any correlation between these types of orbits and what's been found out about listening cycles, picking up cycles. Yeah,
Well, it certainly made me
you
think
can
about
discern.
the conditions.
They come in terms of electromagnetic and radioactivity and distinct. There's this New Zealand guy, Ray Tomes, I think he's called, and he's put all these cycles that he's detected into a kind of an almanac, and it'd be very interesting comparing many different types of effects, being economic ones, electromagnetic ones, reaction time ones.
That sounds like Pi right there. The
rates.
movie.
Yeah,
Where he tries
but
to apply the Fibonacci sequence to the stock market. Yeah.
well, he's doing a
As
similar
an
thing
aside,
to that.
it's similar.
Yeah, he's doing a similar thing to that, but again, he's using. I think he's using Fourier analysis to find out these different waveforms and when they occur, when these repeating patterns seem to pop up, and a lot of them do seem to be cosmological. Now, I wonder if the effects would be heavier. The cosmological effects would be heavier using the Tycho-Brahe system or the solar system.
Well, I'd have to check the tails and stuff, and do some ideas, or do some calculations. But given what I see, that my initial thought is they'd all be pointing away from the sun. So if they're all pointing away from the sun, they wouldn't do this crossover as much. In the conventional sense, they do. So that I can see, but even with that, it doesn't make me not want to think about these. Like, one of the biggest correlations that someone pointed out to me, which was spooky, is the calculation between, if you look up the Earth and the Moon and Mars, they are perfectly aligned for Southeast Asia, December 24th, 2004. For that giant hit, where the giant earthquake hit, at 9.3, they were all lined up perfectly, and it pushed in the atmosphere of the Earth. It went down about 30 or 40 kilometers of the ionosphere into the atmosphere, which means the same would have had to happen underneath the Earth. And, well, we all know that was the largest earthquake that we had since Alaska.
Well, yeah, that's it's.
So it makes
I
you think that way, though. You know, like they say, no, gravity couldn't do that. Yeah, gravity might not be able to do that, but something else might.
I totally agree with that, and I think the whole thing is we've got this data, but no one's looking at it. I mean, people like me and you, Alan,
exactly.
You've got a lot of experts who are working for the European Space Agency. They've got a right good computer programming job, but they're not particularly interested in what they're doing. They
you got to
paid
understand, action at a distance was considered poppycock all like just 400 years ago. So they didn't believe in any of this stuff until Newton said, well, look at this apple. Oh, right. Yeah. Okay. And that's where people started to understand they could measure this stuff. But even then, they were playing around with electricity, and they didn't understand, they didn't even name the electron until the next century. The electron's only, like my grandfather, God rest his soul, is older than the electron.
Wow.
Yeah.
He was born, I have a picture of him in 1904 when he was about 1 year old or 2 years old with his horse, Old Barney. And this, this didn't come out till 1908, didn't it? Like,
he's not still alive, is he?
Oh, no, he died in 96, but that's why I said God rest his soul. But if he was alive, he'd still be older than, it's not that long ago is what I'm trying to say. And we're still, look what we've done with it here on Earth, but yet we still debate its existence in space. We're literally using it to talk to each other across the planet right now. And we say, what in space it's different.
Mm-hmm.
I don't, why? If it works on Earth and looks like this, and we can do all this with it, surely our theory is well-founded, you know?
What do you think of the theory that, because they've had there's some videos out there that are, they could be fake though, but what do you think of the modern theory that giants are living in the mountains because the gravity is less?
I have no belief that giant humans are still kicking around anywhere, except for maybe, like I said, the closest we've ever had was the Sakonay Indians with the double rows of teeth and the red hair, which apparently they did find that cave again, and they're doing an investigation, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah.
But they're only 7 or 8 feet tall. Then there was the ones from South America called the Patagonian giants.
Yes,
they were apparently discovered by the conquistadors. And then, of course, or Cook. I can't remember now. Anyway, and you go further back, they said that they found 2 22 and 25-foot giants underneath Rome.
Yeah, I remember that.
And you go back further, and then they talk about, just pictures. Like, if you just look at the animals that the ancient Egyptians drew and realize how much bigger cows got over time, it's not the cow was getting bigger, it's the humans were getting smaller.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And, it appears that way. Please understand that you could read it that way. Let's say it that. And another one was these wonderful pictures of them making necklaces. Now, at first, it makes no sense because this necklace that they're making is a giant U-looking gold thing that's bigger than my desk. It's absolutely massive. And then they show these small people getting up and putting it around the neck of a big person. Now that doesn't really work for my brain. I'm having problems with that just because it's there. It doesn't mean that what it implies obviously is not instant. Like, for example, the melted stairs. Yeah, it was hit by a nuclear bomb. I'm like, or water could have spilled off stuff they were carrying and create calcification. Like, it's not hard to imagine. This stairway is 4,000 years old or more.
Yeah.
You think stairs are going to look good after a few hundred years? Imagine a few thousand.
But anyway. They have skeletons. They've uncovered skeletons laying in the street holding hands, and they're highly radioactive. But that could have been a lot of things, not just a nuclear bomb.
Well, no, of course. I mean, you get hit with the radiation. I mean, most people don't know this, but radiation fission-like radiation comes from lightning bolts.
Yeah.
Lightning bolts right today, like a regular if you had a sensor there to watch it, you would see it get a spike of hard radiation when a lightning bolt goes off. But because they happen for a split second, and no matter, I mean, unless you get hit with it, I mean, people who have gotten hit with lightning do sometimes die of cancer-like symptoms, or their electric system is so messed up they just pass away after like 4 years or something.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know for sure, but these are just things that I have recalled. Others, of course, young spry fellas have been fine. Others, I mean, a whole animals could get hit with them, but they usually die from the circular effect along where their legs were. They call it a secondary current because the pulse raises up high voltage, but it drops so much per meter as it goes away from the pulse of the electricity that there is a voltage difference between the front of the cow and the back of the cow, which means that there is a loop of current going through the cow, which causes it to die. Which is why, technically, you're supposed to basically keep your head and feet close together, your chances of death are quite much less because it's not going through your body. There's no loops. But anyway, you go in and look at this hard radiation. Well, imagine what a hard radiation that destroyed, let's say, well, if we take the Romans at their word, they say that the city north of them that was run by the Etruscans, who, as you could clearly hear just by the way they talked crazy talk, as basically the before time mentality of, like, the Romans were thinking and talking like us, but they were talking like as if their gods were real and they had to do all this other stuff. And, you know, like today they just do lip service to gods. A politician knows the practical situation. They clearly didn't understand the practical situation. Now, it's quite impossible for them to have blown up the entire city. But now, where that city was located, there is nothing but a 5-mile wide lake. And they said that it was hit by a giant bolt of lightning that more than a mile wide and destroyed it. And the radiation that comes off of that would be massive. Like, I mean, everyone that could see the blast would have been affected by hard radiation. I mean, it's quite possible. The only thing that in the Bible, if I could go through any sort of stories that really is hard for me to explain, is if the close approach of Mercury, that one, apparently the Tower of Babel is the written down text for that. And in any other book, it's a similar story, but everyone lost their ability to speak. So basically the kids that could made up their own language based off of what they had. But that does seem to be correlate. Like, everywhere in the world seemed to invent language at the same time, but not really. They just all lost the ability to speak language at the same time and had to make up a new one. That's literally what the book says. Now, no, I don't necessarily believe in everything that is written, but it is the only planet that came close to us with a magnetic field. Earth, Venus, and Mars do not have any. Mercury does. The only other one that's the only thing I can think of that might have been different. It was the mouse, if you know, the messenger of the gods, the feet with wings, the mouse god, the Mercury, yeah, going back and forth, which means it was on elliptical orbit, crossing out and two like a comet, but it had to be visible at all times. So, but basically, it would go out and talk to gods out there and say, what do you want to tell the ones in there? Oh, see, he's coming back with a message to these gods. And then everyone would, like, imagine or think what the gods would say, you know, or the way they controlled it was they said, we're going to go talk to the gods. Everyone wait out here outside this cave. We're going to go in there, and that's where the god is. But he's also in the sky. Trust me, I know this. Close this door up. We'll be right back. And that way, it kept everyone's hallucinations the same. I mean, it would make perfect sense. You know, that's a way to control people. And instead of having, because when things get serious back then with their hallucinations, we're talking about or right now I'm talking about Julian Jaynes, the breakdown of the bicameral mind, 2700 BC mental changeover that we all went through. Like, philosophy just suddenly got born, and before that we were totally literal. We didn't even have metaphor. So the situation becomes something like we have to try to understand these people because they're our forefathers. Well, that's what Plato said. And then later, when he was an older man, he was saying, just kill them. They're useless. Same thing with the king of Priam, the king of Troy, which is Ilium at the time. And Ilium, yeah, I know that's kind of funny because Iliad means story of Ilium. So literally, the title of that book is really Troy Story. That's hilarious. But anyway, he had apparently got a bunch of Ibirus or Hebrews from the madmen of the desert, they were called, and brought 100 of them to entertain them for a little while. And then when they were done, they killed them all because they were just madmen. They were crazy. Like they would talk about their gods as if they were real and like, coming down. But obviously at the time, this is basically when there was probably very little going on. Like this is when the gods were dying. Like they only show themselves during when we crossed, when they crossed the most energetic layer of the solar wind, so to speak. And then they would disappear from existence again, like half visible gods that, like, this is probably where the ghost idea came from, probably. But sorry for going on babbling there. Sorry, I just hit a nerve.
With what we were watching before,
yes,
those cycles over a period of time will re-emerge. You will once again get Mercury close to Earth. You'll get those changes. It's the same with what you were suggesting before caused that earthquake in 2004. Was there events similar to that going back in time that created what we know now as that huge mass of water of the Pacific Ocean? So it pushed, Earth had to go inward because of that. Is it also?
I do also wonder whether or not
that's now why we're smaller, because we're under different pressures of systems.
I think we're accreting.
That makes a lot of sense, actually. There's nothing wrong with the idea of that, but I mean, just be reasonable and think. During the time of the Ice Age, we had 10,000 years or more of giant creatures. Just then, okay, I don't know why they don't find this weird. It's like they just basically skip over. We had gigantic Opithecus and all these other things, and long-armed bears and giant moose and everything else, and then that was 10,000 years ago. Then stopped. Do we have giant people? No, blasphemy. Okay, and then you go, and then they just sort of skip over 65 million years ago, and then dinosaurs were really big too. Well, what about the intervening time? Oh, things were small. Why? I don't know. What? Like, there's no explanation for any of this. Like basically just everything on the planet just got big. And they say, but not us.
Right.
I'm like, are you sure? Because, we're living things. I don't know if you noticed that, by the way. We're the same as them. They're bears. We're people. So if they got big, shouldn't we get big?
There would be a good chance that on a proportional system, we would be proportionate to the size of those bigger animals at that time.
Someone else pointed out something that's also very interesting that might play into this or might not. If the current of the system is increased, it's a good possibility. In fact, basically what happens is the quote unquote magnetic lines of force, quote unquote, they're just a gradient, as you know. But if the gradient changes, that's basically called a changing magnetic field. So let's say the sun was impinged by a larger body. Just imagine that a giant fucking sun was going by us, not even close to us, but we were suddenly just sort of touching its outer field. So the sun now has to process, and its field has to shrink. Well, that, according to, if I lay down a piece of plexiglass with a bunch of metal ball bearings on it, we'll call them planets, and I increase the magnetic field and shrink because therefore it pulls closer to itself. the field brings itself in. Well, that gradient will pull all the stars or all the planets into it, like not directly, but to a new orbit.
Interesting.
So basically, we'd all go, all the suns of the inner solar system would just go, whoop. Like if the sun changed power, we would all change orbit, is what I'm trying to say. That's how powerful it is, because gravity has nothing to do with, it doesn't really care about, gravity is one thing, but electromagnetism doesn't care about your gravity. Like all you're good for is starting the car. Like you just basically drop
through with this.
Well, I don't know what would happen if it was pulled in. Things could really have gotten, like, whole new orbits could be changed, because suddenly you're now much closer to each other and swinging around each other, and that whole thing could be indicative of that, and we could learn a lot from that. Like, that's what I mean. I don't necessarily believe in the theory, because I don't necessarily understand it all. It would be premature for me to judge, but just the advantages you can get out of it just by looking at things that way would be interesting.
Well, you could also put into this, which we haven't mentioned, is, the idea of the Birkeland current, and that we're within a Birkeland current. So
I definitely believe that.
The position that we are within the Birkeland current can also be a big effect.
I think that's
on all these.
Oh, go ahead, Greg. Sorry, you want to go. I'm sorry.
I got to go to the doctor. Yeah, we can resume this.
All right,
later.
let's definitely talk later then, Greg. I would really love to do it again.
Yeah, I will. I'll be in touch. We'll do it soon.
All right. Well,
no worries.
love to you all then.
Okay,
right,
guys.
all the best.
Okay. Good chat.
Nick.
See you soon.
Good chat. Nice
Okay.
meeting you, Nick.
All right. Bye.